Hello everyone, welcome to the latest episode of the Shed End View podcast. This week we'll be looking at our last couple of games, which were against Harlan Wolf Welders and yesterday's result against Ballymallard. We'll be looking forward to next week's home clash on Friday night against Dundela, and we'll be talking about a few upcoming things that we have in the pipeline. So firstly, 2 weeks ago, this is going to be a bit of deja vu, both for us and for the many viewers that we have. Harlan Wolf Welders at home, Friday night lights, big crowd. What do we normally do in front of a big crowd?
We flop.
What did we do last week?
Well, I wasn't here, but I heard that we flopped completely.
And yeah, that would be the general consensus. Now, looking back on it, we had more chances than enough to win the game. But, and then, when Mark Kelly equalised with about 5 minutes to go, you sort of thought, well, if any team's going to win it, it's going to be us. Obviously, I'm sure most people have seen the highlights now, and we don't want to dwell on it for Stevie Maguire's sake. But it's a I suppose it's a, I don't want to say a howler, but it's just one of those things that happens. Ryan plays rolls the ball back to him. It wasn't even a pacey back pass. Stevie goes to kick it as normal, and it just hops over his toe at the wrong moment. We've seen it happen against us this season with Berat Tucker for Loch Goal. We've seen it happen with Arthur Boric and Paul Robinson in the past. So it's one of those things. It's a crappy way to lose a game, especially when, to be quite honest, once Welders scored, and even probably before they scored, they weren't really interested in sort of pushing forward anymore. I don't think they had any chances in the second half. Maybe had one just before we equalised, but that was only because we were pushing up so much. We had 3 or 4 or 5 really good chances and just didn't take them. So frustrating, I think, was the word. And you were looking at it going, well, it was a perfect opportunity to pick up another 3 points. But when what it did was, in the intervening week, in between the Friday night and yesterday's game against Ballymallard, it probably had, as supporters, it probably had us all thinking, if we lose to Ballymallard, that's an 8-point lead that we had, it's gone, and that's after losing a 5-point lead earlier in the season, so on 2 separate occasions. It doesn't, it didn't sort of bode well. Obviously, we know what happened at Ballymallard, so we bounced back very well. But it was one of those ones where everybody's sort of just a bit crestfallen. There was a lot of arguing going on amongst supporters and stuff like that, and it just, it was just disappointing. Unfortunately, looking at our home record, I know you were doing up the stats on our home record. It's more than frustrating, I think. I'm sure for players and supporters and management alike.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I mean, I know I jokingly said, well, I was serious at the start of the year, but it's been thrown back at me loads of times that would walk the league. But when you look at our away form to begin with, we have 10 wins away from home, 1 loss and 3 draws, which is absolutely incredible. For anybody, any team at any level, that is phenomenal. Yeah. To have 1 loss away from home is amazing. And to have that form and the confidence of going away from home and knowing that we're going to take points is great. But when you look at the home form, 7 wins, 5 losses and 2 draws. 5 losses, I mean, you turn some of those into points. We're well beaten. I mean, Ballymallard, it's the only game I can really think that we were resoundingly beaten. Now, these are all competitions, this isn't just the league. But the Ballymallard game's really the only game I think we were well beaten at home. You turn some of those into draws, point-wise, I think you're well clear. It's maybe not the worst thing in the world, the fact that we have slipped a little bit. And it could be a kick up the arse that you need at the right time going into these kind of last push before the split. But in saying that, the home form is worrying. And it's bad, I think, when you're in a position where you go to Ballymallard, who I would say are probably the best team in the league aside from us, and they've given us the toughest games this season, and you beat them away from home, and instantly you're looking at Friday night at Dundela at home thinking, I have no confidence coming into Friday night, which is, but unfortunately our form is making you think that. So it's that kind of thing of, I don't know what's going to happen on Friday night, and it should be kind of that way for going away from home and not at home. So I think it just needs to hopefully be addressed. I think one of the positives that you could say now is, that lead was eaten into. Right now, the way we need to treat it, I'm sure they'll be looking at it, is that the slate's been wiped clear. From now until the end of the season, it's 13 games. So it's just 13 games to win the league or to get promoted, whatever way it works out. I would take either, but you just have to treat it as we're starting again. It's 13 games, and we need to get the most points out of those 13 games to go up. And I think that's the mindset that you need to go. Don't worry about the lead. You see it in boxing all the time. Somebody's got a lead going into the last couple of rounds and they become defensive and change their style and they get caught cold. And that's what we can't do, you know.
Yeah, I think, I mean, looking at that lead, I mean, you would like to think that Darren's always talked, we've had our blip. We've hopefully had our blip this season, but we've sort of probably had 2 blips this season. Yet we're still 6 points clear. And I know Anna have a game in hand, and possibly 2. You know, so teams could close the gap, and it could be down to 3 if you know, Anna win those games. But you know, you hopefully you can't. I don't think you can get away with having 3 blips in the season and still expect to win the title. Now you may end up doing that. You know, but you don't want to really take that chance. The home form, you know, it's a very strange one. I wouldn't say, when you said there sort of, you know, of no confidence get into Friday night, and I know what you meant, but there is that sort of, it's more sort of, to me anyway, it's a nagging feeling at the back of your mind where I should be sitting brimming with confidence after yesterday, and I'm sure we are. But if you said to me we were going away at Dundela, even though, you know, the pitch is like an upturned saucer,
Pitch a putt.
yeah, you know, it's crazy golf. You know, I don't know whether, you know, maybe the same thing going there, but if we were going anywhere else, I feel more than confident anywhere we go on the road in this league. I'll be honest with you, I feel confident when we go down the showgrounds, despite the performances we've had. I think what we need to learn from it, but it's not what we need to learn from, because, you know, I'm not a coach, and, you know, the players and the management already know this. But 99% of teams that are coming down and playing us at the showgrounds this season are happy to sit back and sit back and sit back. If they grab a scrappy goal, they're only going to sit back, you know, even more. We end up doing, it's like sort of by default, once we go a goal behind, you know, at home,
Yeah.
teams sit back and we just knock the ball about, and we're too ponderous, we move the ball too slowly, and then when that doesn't work, we start playing long balls, and generally you've got a couple of big centre backs up against you, you're happy to head balls away all day long. You know, it's like we sort of nearly forget what we're good at. And you know, look, that happens in games. It's not a case of, you know, just throw your own tactics out the window. But, you know, the way we, given the fact that we were on a bad run of form, and coming into yesterday's game against Ballymallard, and I'm saying yesterday because we're recording this on Sunday, by the way, in case you're confused, and this is out during the week. You know, I think you spoke to everybody before the game, and even the first 10-15 minutes in, you'd have been happy to take a point. I would have taken a point all day long with a Ballymallard. It maintains your gap in between them. It gets us back in a bit of an even keel. It puts us sort of a bit of confidence back in the lads, and going, well, you know, we're more than capable of going on and doing the business here. But even throughout, we grew in confidence as the game developed. The first half was scrappy, then it opened up in the second half, and once that game opened up, it was about who had the better footballers, and we had the better footballers. We had more pace, we had more power. We were able to break from midfield, we were able to create chances. Yeah, we got a bit lucky with the first goal, and then, you know, John gets a brilliant header for the second goal. I think, you know, touched on, you know, I think we'll hear from Darren a wee bit later, but, you know, one thing he touched on is that he just told the midfield to push up about another sort of 10-15 yards in the second half, and it just sort of imposed our game on them, because I think maybe the first half were a bit too standoffish and a bit worried about, you know, haven't been playing well, don't want to get caught out, because it seemed to be, I would love that, we'll have to look up the stats and when we've conceded first, because when we've conceded first, by and large, we've struggled. If we score first, generally you go on to win the game. Yeah,
moving on to the Mallards game yesterday, I think, you know, one thing that we had to do was kind of get over that the shock of last week and how we lost the game to the Welders. There was a lot of standouts yesterday, but for me, I think Stephen Moan was my man of the match. I thought Stephen had a super game. You know, a bit maybe unfairly sent off up at Stute, and he was suspended from that, and then obviously couldn't get back in the team because boys have been doing okay. But, you know, yesterday I just thought he was super. And it just, Stephen's experience, and he seems to really have taken it up a step this season. He just looks like a proper player, and yesterday he controlled that down the right. He didn't let them have anything over there. So he's just tenacious, and I thought, you know, that was probably one of his best games this season.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dependable performer. I say, that was probably said this before, he'd never tell him, like, because he'll tell himself and he'll tell everybody else too. But for me, you know, there was a number of standouts. It was a good team performance, but for me, Dale Montgomery was the man that stood out for me, and I think he's probably stood out in the games that he's played since he's come back and playing hold midfield. He's starting with the Warren Point game because he seems fitter than he was. He seems a bit quicker than he was. I know he's doing a lot of work off the pitch. You think he trains once a week, but does his gym work and things like that. but the amount of, I'd love to know the distance he covered yesterday, because he was everywhere. He was trying to break into their box. He was covering, right back in his own 6-yard box. He was breaking up play. He was doing the job that a defensive midfielder is meant to do.
Yeah.
The other good thing, and the other huge thing, that even though we've had a couple of injuries and a couple of guys out with COVID and stuff like that, I think the biggest thing for me was the replacements that came in yesterday. So Decky dropped to the bench, Dingo came back in, Fra Brennan dropped to the bench, John Boyle came in, Engine was unavailable, Moner came in, then Ryan McGivern to go off injured earlier on, Fra was able to step in. From that, when you're looking at that, that's top quality, top quality sort of 15-16 that we have. Yeah. Obviously Tommy Lockhart's back, and come on, was great to see yesterday, and did look good when he came on, and you have no doubt there's going to be massive more to come from him at the end of the season. That's going to be key. It's a cliche, but you're going to need everybody between now and the end of the season. And looking at what you got out of the boys yesterday, given the run we've been on, and just how much that should sort of, I don't think they need lifting, because I think they know they're good enough, and they know, well, there's maybe a bit of a freak result, but just to get that result away from home against your closest rivals is huge just for everybody. And you can see how much it meant to the players when they come over and celebrate with the supporters afterwards. So it was a great result, and long may it continue. But Friday night against Dundela is absolutely huge. On that, obviously we're going to have a big crowd again. We know we're going to have a big crowd again, because we get big crowds. We get big crowds even more so on a Friday night. But the initiative that you and a couple of guys have set up for the kids, the school kids, to design their posters. So the winner's been announced and chosen, and as have the 10 runners up. But we got a fantastic response to it.
Yeah, and we'll put the poster up on screen now so you can see it. But the winner was Owen McGivern from St Pat's in Newry, so well done to him. But yeah, the whole idea was, we're going well this season, we are getting crowds, but it's to engage the community and try to, I suppose, embed the club as part of the community and give young ones a sense of belonging down here and give them something, a bit of ownership. So we did the scheme, and we sent sheets out to every school in the area, hand delivered them. I think we got over 500 returns, which is absolutely amazing. 500 poster entries, and we narrowed them all down to our top 10 and our winner. But the whole idea is it's getting the name of Newry City into the schools. It's the kids going home with Newry City and noticing what the badge looks like, and knowing that we play in blue and white. Simple things that we take for granted, but they might not know. And I remember years ago doing a penalty shootout up in Bestbrook against the Newry goalkeeper at the time, and for us it was a Premier League goalkeeper. So I think for the young ones in the area, this is massive for them. It gives them an opportunity of coming down. So on Friday night, they're getting a presentation at half time. They'll be taken onto the pitch. They'll meet the players maybe beforehand, all COVID compliant. And it's just nice. It gives them an opportunity to actually be a part of the club. So well done to the team behind it, because it's been good.
Yeah, I think it's the same with any football club or any sporting organisation. The kids are the future, and they're your future fans, maybe future players, maybe future managers, coaches, whatever. So hopefully whenever they get to the right age, then they'll come down and maybe join the youth academy, or at certainly at worst they'll come down and support the team. I know a lot of them will be here on Friday night, so it'll be great. And even the last game, a couple of games ago, where we did flags for the first 50 kids and stuff.
Well, we're doing that again this Friday night. Yeah,
there you go.
There'll be free flags for the first 50 kids.
So stuff like that, it's great to see, and I think that's one thing that the club can take massive credit for since we've reformed the community engagement, with schools and with local people, and having a lot of local players in the team obviously helps, and being successful obviously helps too. But you need those supporters, and you need those kids, parents, relatives of players, whoever it may be, to add to the support, to sort of push you on, because it's again another cliche, but it's something that when you talk to a player, or even Darren after a game, that's one thing they always mention. The level of support we get, is fantastic, and it's loyal. It's a proper support. So the more people you want to come and join board that, all the better. Yep. But talking of prizes. Now the big prize, never mind your poster to publicise the game. The big prize, we've touched on this, I think, from probably about the first podcast. We always said that when we got to 100 YouTube subscribers, I'm sure there's at least 100 people have described this podcast as absolute dirt. So 100 subscribers. I think we're in 97 or 98, but I'm sure by this point, at least 15-20 minutes minutes into this podcast, we're bound to have broken the 100 mark. That's sarcasm, by the way. We said we'd do a giveaway. So what we'll do is, we haven't actually decided what we're going to give away, but it'll likely be a shirt, and we'll see if we can maybe even get a couple of the players or something to sign it. But it'll be, that can be up to said winner. So when we get the 100 subscribers and over, hopefully, we'll do a wee draw. We'll stick all the names into a hat, or do a random online generator, or do something that'll all be done above board. We might even let Tommy, who's behind the camera, do it. Although that sort of goes against the above board sort of thing, as he nods his head and rolls his eyes. But so we'll do that. So like and subscribe below, and tell your friends, tell your family, tell people you don't even like, and just to subscribe here, because it means you might have a chance of winning something. So we'll announce that giveaway probably in our next podcast, but we have to hit 100 subscribers first. So pretty pleased. We're trying our best here.
Yeah, we'll be stuck on 97 for a while.
Obviously the content's extremely engaging with the massive Newry support.
I mean, once we get 100 subscribers, we're both giving up our jobs and just being full-time vloggers.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, we're going to start. If anybody's seen an Instagram account called Influencers in the Wild, where we'll start doing that. If you see us down Hill Street doing this, we'll end up sort of doing that correct. Just all wearing Newry shirts. But another thing to touch on, on a more sort of not serious note, but in a similar vein, I suppose, we're talking about community engagement there, and getting people who maybe haven't been as engaged with the club in the past, maybe are lapsed fans, maybe they're starting to get back into it and they only know the club over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, but they come down to the games. It's brilliant. But there's a new page set up a relatively new page set up on Facebook, Newry Town City AFC Memories. I hope I've got that right, and if I haven't, I apologise. I just find that the level of detail in it is absolutely brilliant, and I think it was only right we sort of, hopefully we can give it a wee plug on here, because for anybody that it's gone right through the eras, right down from photographs from 50, 60 years ago, probably more, right up to Dean Fitzgerald, for example, lifting the Mid Ulster Cup and saying it was the highlight of his career during the week. I think it might have been just like dig a warning point, but we'll leave that one. It was 17 Mid Ulster Cups ahead of you, by the way. But that sort of stuff, and even leading the thing today before we come down, as I was saying to you before we come on air, the 97-98 season, we were in Division 1. After 25 games, we were 6 points clear then. After 25 games now, we're 6 points clear. And as it was pointed out on the page, the only difference is that they only had 3 games to go then, and now we've 13. But I just think it's a brilliant resource for somebody who has been immersed in the club for over 30 years, to see all that sort of stuff and just something different every day. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and the guys behind it, it's keep it going, because it's another brilliant thing to get supporters engaged. Yeah,
it is, especially like you said, maybe the Laps fans that knew Newry Town and followed them for years, but when they were like our age and maybe dropped off and they had families and this, it's nice to maybe get them back in when they see familiar photographs, or maybe see themselves in the backgrounds or something. So I think it's great. And whoever's behind it are doing a super job, so keep it up, and hopefully in 20 years time, when we're archiving all the stuff that's happening now, we'll be able to look back and see that.
Yeah, and they'll obviously cut clips of this podcast with posts from the memories page. I'm sure that'll be a real gold mine for people.
I suppose just on the photos though, we've talked about this off air and everybody's been talking about it, but Brendan Monaghan has done an amazing job this season in capturing, I suppose, some of the best moments, and really capturing fans at their happiest, And we've got a few photographers down here, like Aidan's a great photographer as well, Aidan Carroll. He's doing a great job. But Brendan is just capturing magical moments, and every time you come home from a game now, you're just quickly seeing if Brendan's posted it, because you can't wait to see what he's caught. Yeah. So it's just amazing, and people like Brendan archiving these magic moments throughout seasons, and even some of the sadder moments that are happening in the games that are this bad, but it all tells the story of a season, and it's just nice having that bank of archive there.
And I think the other thing, how many of the players that respond to Brenton's photographs, when they're sharing them about, and they become their profile pictures and they become their Instagram profiles and all the rest of it, and then they're posting it up on their stories or whatever. As you said, I was actually, and Brenton's going to hate me for this, but when I came back yesterday, so you drove yesterday, Ally, and he took me and stayed in the car, and I didn't drink, so I just went home, I had my dinner, and I was sitting there and I checked Twitter exactly as you say, going, wonders Brenton put up any photos.
Yeah,
He's put up any pics. And I looked around and my heart sank when I saw he was in the Bosco having the pint of Guinness. I was like, could you not have a pint of Guinness and get home and put your photographs up? But I was texting Brenton today. I mean, you know, obviously I've worked alongside him, well, not alongside him, he's you know, he I worked for him, I suppose, in the past. And I was thinking about this last night. You know, I'm a journalist. I could write 1,000 words of a match report, and it could be the best match report I've ever written, but it means nothing without a photograph. You know, the cliche, a picture tells a story, or a picture says 1,000 words. You know, it's pretty apt when it comes to Brenton and Aidan's photographs. You know, I know Aidan wasn't there yesterday, but he's been brilliant and come down and it's probably started later in his career than Brenton. But you know, we noticed, I think, the second goal yesterday. We were all running down to the fence to celebrate, and immediately Brenton was 10 yards onto the pitch and turned around with his second camera in his hand and getting photographs of the players celebrating. And it just captures that moment in time where it's just pure unbridled joy. The one that stuck out for me in one of the photos was Marty McParland's face. Marty does so much work down his club, and you know, he's a brilliant person to have, and you know, what he contributes to the club is huge. And just the pure joy in that man's face, and then Micheál, his son, in front of him, banging banging the sign which said something like DB erections or something like that. So you know what I mean. Maybe he was trying to tell us something, but I think anybody that supports a team, whether it's, you know, football, rugby, you know, GA, whoever it may be, you can relate to, if it's your team, you can relate to that sort of split second of when, you know, a goal goes in, or you know, whatever happens, whatever the big moment is in the game. And what the likes of Brenton in particular does is just capture that split second. And it's not just as easy as just standing there and pressing the button. You know, you need to be in the right place in the right time and know what you're looking for. But to have those, you touched on it, to have those specific moments that are documented, that we can go and look back. I mean, you can see some of these photographs behind us that we have up every week. They're brilliant, and you know, you keep hassling me to do a book with them. I think it might be a case of, I think people more chance of people buying a book of photographs with
captions.
I can write the captions for them.
I don't
think anybody wants to buy a book by writing, to be honest. But yeah, you know, like Brenton, Aidan, anybody that's come down taking photographs, you know, and
Sean Donovan in the past.
Sean Donovan in the past as well. Yeah, I mean, keep it going, because and I know they've actually turned into, from coming down here in the first instance just to take photographs. Both Brenton and Aidan are fully fledged fans now, which is brilliant. You know, they love it. So I think if you're into something, you support it or something, you're probably going to be naturally more enthusiastic about it, and then you know, the photographs come even better. So it must be satisfying to him. But Brenton, I will say, if matches end at about 10-5 on a Saturday, we expect to see a raft of photographs up by no later than 5:30.
I was going to say 5-5, but
we'll give you sort of 40 minutes or so, like, you know, none of this pint crack, you know, sort of. So folks, that wraps us up for this week. We'll see you all down on Friday night under the lights at the showgrounds here for Newry against Dundela, and we will have a special guest for the following week's or next week's podcast, which I'm going to call him out now, because then he can't back out of it, and that'll be none other than our winger extraordinaire, who's been arguably, if our best player this season, James Teelan, Crosswell Games finest, is going to be coming on with us. We've finally badgered him in to coming on, so look forward to that, and we'll see us all again next week and at the match on Friday night.